Of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. The meeting is being held in person and electronically via Zoom. Members of the public who would like to comment on hearings or other matters may do so via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 888-788-0099 or 213-338-8477 and enter meeting ID 965-3669-9762. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN Channel 16, AT&T Channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watchctn. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Commissioner Willis.
Here.
Commissioner Rockland. Commissioner Quijano. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Commissioner Fortner. You do not have a quorum yet, but one is expected. Kathy should be arriving anytime.
Okay. There we go.
Pardon?
Oh, Commissioner Fortner is present.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we do have a quorum. On to item C, approval of agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to tonight's agenda?
There are not.
Okay. Hearing and seeing no objection, the agenda is approved as presented. On to item D, public comment. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. To comment on such other preservation matters, please call 888-788-0099 or 213-338-8477 and enter meeting ID 965-3669-9762. As stated, this information is also on the published agenda and the video feed. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one by using the last 3 digits of your phone number. In order to electronically raise your hand or to indicate your desire to speak, please press *9 on your phone. Ms. Thatcher, do we have any callers?
No callers.
Okay. On to item E, unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. And on to item F, hearings. First hearing is F1, 1017 West Liberty. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
Certainly. Okay, 1017 West Liberty. Is in the Old West Side Historic District. This house first appears in Polk directories in 1928 as the home of John Huss, who worked in real estate. Mrs. Huss lived in the home until at least 1940. Some of its significant features include brick on the foundation on first floor, wood siding on the second floor, a shallow shed roof facing the street over wall dormers, exposed rafter tails, and a stone 3/4 width front porch supporting square half columns. In 2014, a screen porch was approved behind the house. And in 2022, the HDC approved the paving of a strip between the house and the driveway and the replacement of a pair of wood overhead garage doors with steel doors. That paving has been completed. It's not shown in this picture because this is one of my older file photos, but I may have another picture that shows that in a second. House is on the south side of West Liberty, west of 8th Street and east of Eber-White Boulevard. And the applicant is seeking HDC approval to remove the 2 garage doors and convert them to a single opening in order to correct structural deficiencies. All right, here's the house. You can see the garage in the back. It's pretty typical of its time, has a pyramid roof. 2 doors on the front. Those doors were approved to be replaced last summer, or last year, in 2022. And now the homeowner is finding that there are much greater structural problems with the garage when they went in there to actually start doing work to it and start shoring it up. This is a photo off of the web. It's from the Board of Realtors. I'll give them credit. I just wanted to see how at some point somebody bumped the back wall down here to make it another 4 feet deeper or something. because it looks a little funny from the inside, so I wanted to show you that from the exterior. So work to date is to install this plywood board sheeting on the inside to help with lateral stability of the walls. I think that's the right term. This is the front garage door. When you're facing the garage, it's on the right. It doesn't move up and down anymore at all. It's just broken there. This is the back of the garage. There are two windows in the back wall. This is that where the new timbers are. You can see that's the little addition that sheds off of the back. The garage, as with many garages of its age, was not built very robustly. For example, this 2x4 that spans the length is the only support beam running in that direction. There aren't any more. It's not, there's nothing any bigger than that. And you can see up above where this new lumber is that they are installing a new beam that's much beefier. It doesn't go all the way to the front yet because of the problems that they found with the front that brought them here to you tonight. This is that front door that doesn't roll up. This is the other door that is open. I just included this so you could see how the roof sits on this sill up here. And a new beam is going to be necessary. And I'll give you a better explanation of that in just a second. I know this doesn't totally make sense unless you've read the packet thoroughly, but we're really only concerned with the exterior changes to the garage, not the interior, but you kind of have to look at the interior to figure out what's going on in the exterior. So right now there are columns in each of the corners, the four corners of the garage, and the two in the front no longer reach the ground. They've rotted out. And there's a foundation, a concrete foundation, that's just completely turned to dust. So the garage is not supported by anything in these front corners. The solution to that is to add another column next to the one that you can't see that's behind the siding here. It would be right over here. And a good thing about the way this garage is put together for this proposal is there'll be a new column next to the old column. It'll go up to a new beam running across the opening on the front of the garage. And this piece of trim that you see right here and right here, adjacent to the openings, can come off and there's siding behind it. So we'll still have old siding. You won't have to replace that. They can essentially move this trim over to hide the new column that's going up. That will make the garage doors each 3 inches narrower on either side. Once you do that, you've made it 3 inches, so 6 inches narrower overall. You've got about an inch of clearance to get your cars in and out, which is not enough. You can't do it safely. Thus, the proposal from the owner and the structural engineer and the contractor who's doing some of this work, the best solution that they arrived at was to replace the two door openings with a single opening, and then to do something to make it look a little more like there are two doors there instead of one, to paint down the middle of the new garage door. Get to that in just a second. These are packet photos that you've already seen showing, daylight, where the support columns are not even hitting the concrete footings that are just wasting away down here. On the left are some drawings. This is the existing, and there are more in your packet also. This is the proposed. This is a single roll-up door. This was the closest window pattern that they could find. It's not exact, but neither are these doors that are existing probably original. We don't know for sure, but the garage was built early enough that it might have had double leaf doors. It might not have. We never established that in the last meeting, but the replacement doors were approved nonetheless. So here's where essentially a stripe would be painted down here between these windows to make it look like a column, because that's what you see right now is the two windows, the two roll-up doors and a column down the middle. I want to tell you a little bit more about it, I think, before I get into the standards and the guidelines. Yeah, the structural defects are outlined really well in the packet, in the application attachments. And I always appreciate when a structural engineer gets involved because, you know, we don't necessarily see this stuff and what's going on, and they can, you know, arrive at solutions that I wouldn't have thought of. Let's see. So what they're trying to do is create enough lateral resistance to wind loads and prevent the garage from racking or shifting again. They've already hauled it up so far, shored it up, put the plywood in, and started the reinforcements when they got up to the front and realized that they weren't going to be able to keep those two front openings. So going through the standards, number 2 says the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for building site, it's recommended to identify, retain, and preserve buildings and their features, as well as features of the site that are important in defining its overall historic character. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for residential accessory structures, it's appropriate to maintain and restore historic barns, garages, sheds, trellises, and other accessory structures to match the historic materials and configuration, and to maintain and repair historic doors and windows on historic barns and garages to match the existing materials and configuration. It's also appropriate where elements of historic outbuildings are deteriorated beyond repair to replace the elements in kind. Also to replace a non-historic or missing garage door with a new door in keeping with the style and period of the existing garage using the historic opening size. So in short, if this were just a matter of wanting a wider opening for convenience or because their SUV would fit better or something like that, I would just flat out say, no, that's not appropriate work. Given that the goal here is to keep the structure intact and not let it fall over or become more damaged when we hit high winds, and because the owner has gone out and gotten expert testimony on the best ways to do this, I do feel that this is a supportable application and that this is an acceptable course of action for this garage. So staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tetra. Commissioner Fortner was on the review committee. Will you please give your report and recommendation?
Yeah, not much to add. Everything that you can see supports the structural engineering report, as you can see in the pictures. And the owner has certainly been diligent about, you know, figuring out the best way to deal with the situation and save the garage.
Okay, thank you. The applicant is present, so if you'd like to step up to the podium and, do we have a sign-in sheet?
We don't, I'll get one.
Just state your name for the record. You have up to 5 minutes if you have anything you'd like to add to the.
Yeah. My name is Greg Smith, live at 1017 West Liberty. And I guess first and foremost, I'd like to thank Jill and her staff for guidance, not only through the proposal last summer as a resident of your community for 7 months, but also working through this one as well. It's been really valuable to me and my wife. The garage, probably the most telling moment on the garage was when Dave Ansdorf, the structural engineer, and Bob were up at our house in September, and we were starting to look at it, and one of Bob's workers was there, and the three of them went to the corner of the garage, the northwest corner, and they put their hands up against the corner of the garage, and then they leaned into it. And that corner of the garage moved because the footings on the front of the garage are now floating. They are not physically connected to anything. And at that point, Dave Ansdorf said, I wouldn't park my car in this garage until we can get this repaired. So we began work and realizing there was a lot to do. But it was only after Bob had been working for a while, that he realized the extent of the deterioration of the foundation itself. So we looked at 4 different options, and Dave and particularly came back and said, here's the only option that makes sense for this structure for its long-term viability. And it's the one that is in the report that he designed that we have implemented except for the front, because that's always where we're here for. And he said, here's the limitation, though. We're going to move these east and west front columns in 3 inches. And when we do that, you're going to go to a garage door where you have literally 1 inch of additional space between your car and the sides of those garage, which is insufficient for proper ingress and egress. And therefore, if you have to put on 2 garage doors, you're going to end up with a storage unit. You're not going to have a garage. So we worked hard to try and find a way to visibly create garage doors and trim that would maintain the architectural integrity of the facility from the garage from the street. And we hope that you see it that way too.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Commissioners?
Although I do think that your description of everything was really good.
Yeah, thanks.
Agreed. No question, Commissioner White?
No question.
No question?
Thank you very much.
Actually, I'm sorry, I had one question. I just want to, you have the 2 options in the packet. Option 1 is the desired option, where you have the 2 hinges and the 2 handles. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. That's all.
Yeah, no, and we also engaged an architect just to give me a little bit of advice about how can we make this visibly as close to what it is today. And what Lynn said was, this is how you do it. So the first one is the one we would propose and prefer.
Okay.
to.
Great. Thank you. Great. I'll now open the public hearing for this item. Again, this is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about the application at 1017 West Liberty. Again, public comment may be made by calling 877-853-5247 and entering meeting ID 965-3669-9762. Please press star 9 on your phone to electronically raise your hand. Ms. Thatcher, do we have any callers?
No callers.
I'll close the public hearing portion. Is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion? Commissioner Fortner?
I just have a question. Should I mention option 1 as proposed in option 1, or is that clear enough in the application?
If someone has well, I don't know that
I
it's
think it does
necessary.
state option 1.
I think either way.
But I guess I have a quick question now, because I'd almost like to talk about option 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think we should hold it for the discussion. Is
yeah,
Yeah.
just.
Okay. Yeah.
So you don't have
You can always
to.
add it back in.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 1017 West Liberty Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to convert the 2 garage doors into 1 opening as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2 and 9, and the guidelines for building site and district or neighborhood setting, and the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for residential accessory structures.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Fortner, seconded by Commissioner White. We have a discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I guess I would just like to jump in with 2 points. So I think, this is just my opinion. But I would think, especially if we're going from 1 door to 2, I think the first option has too much kind of designy elements on it. And I do understand the point of like, hey, currently it has 2 doors, so we're like, it'll be 1 door, but it'll have the appearance of 2. But at the end of the day, from the street, that door reads as 1 door, so I just kind of almost, it would be my opinion that it should just read what it is, which is like 1 door. Because, like I said, I just think that there's too much kind of, there are too many kind of stylistic, kind of detailed gogogs on it. Yeah, just let it exist as it is, just as a door, and it does have, the option 2 does have does reference really well to the 2 doors that were there previously. And then I almost think adding the stripe down the middle too is just another, I mean, it's 1 door. I mean, the central column is gone, like why put a burden on yourself to have to continue to keep it painted and keep it, maintain the little strip. It's 1 door. I would just say, just let it be what it is. That would be my feeling. That's all.
Any other thoughts from commissioners regarding that? Are you saying that you would be opposed to option 1? Or-
No, I wouldn't, and I guess this is more just from maybe it's more of a design issue or question, but at the end of the day, if we're agreeing to, at the core, take the garage door down from 2 to 1, which I agree, I understand, based on the structural issues, and as Ms. Thatcher noted, it is appreciated that a licensed structural engineer actually looked at the situation and actually reported versus just somebody, a random opinion. So I support that. So to me, it's just a question of style. So at the end of the day, if everybody wanted to go with option 1, I'm cool with that because
Why don't we
the
just
2-door
let it be
configuration
his
go.
option?
Well, and I think that's where I was headed with my question, that if we're
Okay.
okay with option 1 or 2
Yeah, I'm
as a
fine with
body,
either.
then.
But just, that was just my thought.
Okay.
Right.
From a design standpoint.
It wasn't specified in the motion, so.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Could go
So
with
that's
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We're all ready for a vote? All of those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All of those opposed, please say no. Okay, your motion carries. Please note that you must apply for any permits before beginning work on your project. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now on to item F3. This is 511 East Ann. I will be recusing myself from this project, and Commissioner White has agreed to act as chair for this portion. Everything from here down is just what you would need for, if you have any questions. You have your packet. Okay.
This is F3. Jill, would you like to read the staff report?
Yes.
To
Thank
present
you.
the staff report.
Thank you. This is 511 East Ann. It is in the East Ann Historic District. It's the circa 1860s Wilcoxon Easton House. It's an excellent example of the Greek Revival. With its end gable, 6/6 windows, narrow side lights, and transom around the front door, and simple symmetrical design. The earliest map it appears on is the 1866 Bird's Eye, and it first appears in city directories in 1872 as the home of Richard and Emery W. Snell. The house was maintained until the late 1960s when it was allowed to fall into disrepair. In 1976, it was purchased by Whitcomb and Martha Schmidt and was partially restored. The house was not consistently occupied in recent years and again fell into disrepair. The current owner purchased the house from the Schmidt estate in 2022. It's on the north side of East Ann Street, east of North Division, and west of North State. And there is quite a laundry list of things that the HDC is being asked to approve, most of which are repairs and restoration work, plus a new addition on the back of the house. I'm going to walk you around the house and point out a few things as we go. There are no changes proposed on the front of the house with the exception of a request for storm windows, appropriate storm windows. This window is boarded, but there is a window either back there or being repaired. You can see that the foundation is having some issues here on the corner. This front section of the house is requested to be replaced because it is deteriorating substantially. It's very bad on the inside. There are brick foundation walls and there are some concrete foundation walls on the inside. I'm not sure which one this is, but it's showed on one of the photos and, I'm sorry, one of the drawings. We'll get to it in a second. If you look down here to the right, there is a one-story wing on the back, or 1.5 story, and it has 4 windows here. We're going to look underneath the first window and underneath the third window on our next slides. Oh, here's another picture of that deterioration on the corner of the house. You can see right into the basement. This is underneath the first window that I just pointed out. This is a window well, believe it or not, that they would like to fill in and get rid of. It's not original. The siding goes all the way down to the ground, and it's hard to tell if what used to be in there, but it's no longer being used as a window. It's superfluous. It's alongside the driveway, and we're happy to have it go away. A little bit farther back, this is underneath the third window on that wing. There is a window in this one. It's a small, not egress sized. It's just boarded. You can see boarding in here, and the applicants have requested to put a new window in this opening and clean all the gunk out, and just for light, that's all. This is the back corner of the house. This big panel here is part of an 8-foot fence that used to surround the entire backyard, so you can kind of ignore it. Much of the fencing is proposed to be removed. There's nothing historic about these pickets in the front. We've got recent modern pictures with showing several different kinds of fences there. This is just the latest one. And the privacy fence on the back, you can see where it's been removed alongside the driveway here, but it's going away all over. This is the back door on the 1.5 story wing. This chimney is proposed to be removed in order to accommodate a new addition that I'll show you in a second. The 2 chimneys on the front, the main block of the house, will stay there. One of them, this one in the middle, we believe the previous owners rebuilt. Where did my mouse go? There it is. It doesn't show up in some of the 1970s pictures, but then it's in earlier pictures and later pictures, so I'm thinking that he just rebuilt it probably from the roof ridge up, and it does look a little bit different when you look closely. But this chimney is not visible from the street, but certainly is part of the historic character of the house, so that's something to think about. Here's another picture of the back. The windows are fantastic. I mean, they're very old. I don't know if they're 1860s, but they could be. But they're certainly very old. Most of the doors on the house are old as well. This is a modern porch addition thing that's got 2 walls that are tall shutters. It's very strange. It's very unique. This is, you see this little earth-moving guy here going down into the basement. I just took a picture to show you that there is an egress well here, or there will be an egress window proposed to go in here. And a matching one is proposed on the other side right here, alongside the other side of the door. Okay, here's another picture of that modern shed thing. It's rickety, it's fallen apart. In the back corner of the house, the new addition is proposed to come to right about where the middle of this window is. So this window would be lost, and this window. And there's a door opening without a door on the inside here, and I think there's also a window opening without a window. Those would all be swallowed out by an addition that would be put into this back corner, original back corner of the house. You can see that there were some cool knee wall windows up here. I believe they've taken the windows out and are storing them because there are also knee wall windows on the other side of the back wing, and they can keep them for future repairs. This is just a shot looking into that shed structure. You can see that there's a window here. This door's missing, this door's missing. And this was just, the whole house was stacked full of stuff. It was a hoarder situation. And first time I was out here to look in it, you couldn't even see this door. There was so much stuff back there. In the backyard, where Commissioner Epperson is standing here in the picture, this is roughly the extent of the driveway. So there's a shared driveway, comes down here, somewhere in the middle. The driveway would swoop around, and there would be 3 parking spaces, 2 where these vehicles are, and then 1 more here. So, oops, excuse me. Those were in a pretty good location for you to see where the parking is proposed to go. I would have preferred 2 to 3 spaces, but they proposed 3, and I think that the backyard is probably big enough to support that. Where Commissioner Epperson is standing in this picture is the rear of the building, where the addition is proposed to come out to. You can see that next door, there's a big house on both sides. And the additions would be slightly deeper than these houses are now, but not dramatically. The house we're talking about, 511, is set a little bit more forward than those 2. I just took those pictures to show you what's going on. This guy's just all dirt in the backyard. I do have a question for the applicants when we get that far about how they will be delineating the parking spaces to make sure that the whole backyard doesn't just turn into a parking lot, and that it actually stays 3 spaces. Now we're back in the street. This is looking at the west wall of the house. No work is proposed here, but I just wanted to show it to you. There's a window here there's a window, but it has 2 shutters closed over it. I think they're just fixed shut. Here are a couple of photos. On the left is an undated photo, probably from the 70s, when the previous owner first bought it and started restoring it. You can see that there was the outline of a porch. This porch shows up on Sanborn maps. It looks like just a little shallow entry porch. It didn't go very far over. You can see it's right over to here, probably. And then that, at some point, got replaced with what's there now. This is 1947. Here's the extent of the little porch that was there that you can only see the ghost of in the photograph. This is a picture that I had to share with you. This is, on the left, is Egbert Boone. He's my great-grandfather.
Oh, really?
And, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was cleaning out my mom's basement last year, or a couple years ago, and she's going through a box of family photos that she got from her mom, and she picked this one up and looked on the back and said, 511 East Ann. Do you know where that is, Ann Arbor? And I said, yes, I know where that is. And I never got the chance when the previous owner owned it to actually ask him if I could go in. I used to see him all the time, but then he sort of moved to another state. So I never got to ask him, like, where was this room in this house? So after the estate took it over and some other people were looking at the house, I was allowed to go into it. And I found this room, and the wallpaper was still there on the walls. And this was the only room in the house that had that little picture rail that the picture is hanging from, and there was a window on the side. So it's, it's a pretty simple house. It's just square rooms. And so my great-grandfather, Egbert Boone, was there in 1898 when he was a student at the University of Michigan for 1 year.
Well done.
And some occasion where they needed to document it with a photo.
Yeah, I don't understand why. He didn't live there, but there was, the place was used for something. I looked it up in a city directory a while ago. It may have been that there were meals there, but it wasn't a boarding house, so it's a little mysterious, but hi, Grandpa. All right, now we'll get to the actual renovation proposal. On the right, we have the existing footprint. Here's that existing strange porch. There's a pond in the back that's going to go away. That's modern. We've got pictures it doesn't show up in that are not very old. The proposal is to add a long, narrow, 2-story addition that would tie into the roof ridge of the existing 1.5-story rear wing. One of the reasons that the addition is narrow and sticks out into the backyard is in order to meet side yard requirements, you need at least 12 feet between the property line and the house here, the new house. The existing house does not conform to current zoning, but that's okay as long as the addition does. And the property, the project will take a trip to the Zoning Board of Appeals to ask for this and another variance, but we don't need to worry about that right now. You can see how, here's the two-story block. The whole thing is 2 stories, but it has a little gable roof that matches, looks like it matches the pitch of the existing roofs without the corner returns, which is appropriate. It does have vertical board and batten hardy cementitious siding. And this connector in between that goes off of the ridge, sorry, I keep losing my mouse, off of the ridge and is a nearly flat roof for this middle part to help keep it distinguished and also to help it sort of not overwhelm the tie-in to the 1.5-story rear wing, because this is obviously a very historic and important part of the house. Oh, here's a picture of the pond in the back. I've got all the floor plans in here. I'm only going to go over the basement one here, but the other ones are here if anybody wants to ask questions about them or anything. We've got, this is that existing well that the conveyor was coming out of. They're going to put a new timber well in there and a new window in that opening since there is no window right now. This is where I said the window would be replaced and that existing well cleaned out. Over here on the existing, this is where the well that you couldn't see under all the garbage would be filled in. There are 3 window wells proposed on the new addition. One is for this window right here. I'm not sure why it doesn't show. There's another well here for these 2 windows, and then this is a 3rd well across the back. They're for egress, but they're also to let light into these basement rooms because they are bedrooms. Similar 1st floor and 2nd floor. Sorry. Oh, come on. This is the front elevation of the house. Shutters, wood shutters are proposed to be installed. I'm sorry, I don't know why it keeps doing this. Wood shutters are proposed to be installed. They are a very close match to the existing ones in size and appearance. This is the back, or the north elevation. Here is the 2-story addition off of the back. Right here, this square is where a couple of air conditioning units, 2 of them, are proposed to be placed because the house would become a 2-family house. They would need 2 air conditioning units. Here we are at the east elevation. There's a skylight up here that would be removed, which is fine. Here's the proposed chimney removal. And there are a couple of new skylights on the other face, on the other side of the roof ridge. And then we've got the 2-story addition here. The addition has casement windows. They're proportional to the historic windows, but they're distinguished because they're casements. And the vertical siding also, it's a modern looking and easily distinguished but compatible rear addition in staff's opinion. Now we're on the west elevation. The side setback between this west elevation of the 2-story block and the new addition it's pretty substantial. It's 5 or 6 feet. I've got it somewhere in the staff report. And here you can see those window wells. There's 1 window here and there's 2 windows here. Materials, the Marvin clad casement windows, new asphalt shingles, board and batten vertical siding. Here are the shutters, existing shutter dimensions and proposed. The proposed ones are 15 inches wide and the existing ones are 16 1/4. And this is similar materials that this architecture studio used on another house to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. I mean, if you look at the form of this, it's fairly close to what they're proposing here. I'm not sure what's proposed to be used down near ground level. It doesn't really show, since the siding goes all the way to the ground, they're going to do that same thing on the addition, since they're not showing a change in materials there at the foundation. We've got some cross sections. There's a nice window table. The windows, all the historic windows are going to be repaired. The front door would be repaired. The back door would be repaired. And then there's information on the new awning and casement windows. This was some supplemental information that came in this week. This is the side window, the basement window on the street, the little one. It's 2 feet by 2 feet. They are proposing to install a spacer bar to make it look like a divided light. Presumably that's what's there now. And then pavers will be made of concrete to lead from the driveway to the back door. Oh, here, look at this. Division between ground cover and gravel parking and drive will be 8-inch by 4-inch by 2-inch concrete pavers. Okay, so these raised pavers will delineate, keep the gravel in and keep the cars from jumping it, hopefully. And I believe that's it. So moving on to the Secretary of Interior standards. 1 says the property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. I've read 2 to you. Number 5 says distinctive materials, features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property will be preserved. Number 6 says deteriorated historic features will be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new feature will match the old in design, color, texture, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features will be substantiated by documentary and physical evidence. I read number 9 to you already. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property will be unimpaired. From the guidelines for district or neighborhood setting, it's not recommended to introduce new construction that is visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships within the setting. It's recommended to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open space. It's also recommended to construct a new addition so that there's the least possible loss of historic materials, since the character-defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. It's recommended to locate the attached exterior addition at the rear or on an inconspicuous side of a historic building and limit its size and scale in relationship to the historic building. Also designing new additions in a manner that makes clear what is historic and what is new. It's not recommended to design new additions that result in the diminution or loss of the historic characteristic of the resource, including its design, materials, workmanship, location, or setting. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for all additions, it's appropriate to locate a required addition on the least character-defining elevation, keeping it subordinate in volume to the historic building, and to place a new addition on a non-character-defining or inconspicuous elevation and limit the size and scale in relationship to the historic property. For roofs, it's appropriate to retain and maintain original historic roofing materials, roof shape, dormers, cupolas, chimneys, and built-in or decorative gutters and downspouts. All right, that brings us back to Jill making sure that she didn't miss anything. It's got a mind of its own. The 50% rules, the proposed new floor area is a 45% increase over the original, and the proposed footprint is also a 45% increase over the original. And basically, everything that's there now is original. It has no modern additions. So that does conclude staff's report.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Thatcher, for
You're
your
very
excellent
welcome.
staff report.
Could I just
Commissioner-
add one quick thing? I had 2 conditions in the motion that are no longer necessary because additional information was provided. So if whoever
Please.
goes into, whoever makes a motion, just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Catherine Fortner was on the review committee. Will you please give your report and recommendation?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to the staff report being so thorough. It is pretty amazing that they can increase footprint as much as they are with as little impact on the historic building as they are proposing. We are losing 2 windows on the back elevation where the building, the new addition will connect. And the roof of the smaller addition in the back will be affected, but it's that issue that we've been dealing with of these 1.5-story buildings where the upper half story isn't useful, so it will address that, make that space actually useful, without affecting what's viewed from public right-of-way. So again, it's amazing that they're going to add that big an addition, and it's going to be virtually invisible from public right-of-way.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant, unmute your microphone if you're on.
Yes, this is Rob Burrows at Thoic Studio. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. I literally lost our link for a brief moment, which caused me a heck of a lot of panic suddenly, but I'm back. So thank you very much for having us in front of you this evening. And I want to say, as always, a great kudo and thanks to Mrs. Thatcher for assembling such a thoughtful and detailed assessment and response. And we really appreciate your feedback. I don't have any grand tales of walking this as Mrs. Thatcher did pre-purchase when the house was almost unwalkable, nor did I have a great-grandfather who happened to be photographed in it either, but that's a great story. So I'm the architect of the project. I want to make sure that there's a few things, just really a major point out of, we made some intentionally thoughtful design decisions in terms of placement of the addition. This is not one of the classic maximum density projects. This is intended to be a sensitive, carefully considered addition to the rear of the house. Many of the architectural gestures were meant to separate it from the existing fabric and structure of the property itself, and in many ways it complements it through its scale and its general geometry and structure. The great majority of the work that's going into this will be not only stabilizing the house, there's tremendous structural work that has to go on, owing to the long periods of lack of habitation, lack of steady use and functionality of the home itself. That will require a great deal of structural work, both in the foundations and the floor framing. The bones of the house, in many cases, are, in this case, good. It's not great, but the owner of the property is committed to stabilizing, and not only that, but restoring and rehabilitating, as you've seen as part of the presentation this evening. So, and I want to thank Ms. Thatcher as well for sharing the additional material that we shared earlier this week. I'm here for additional questions, of course, and anything that I can help to assist in clarifying any thoughts or comments that you have, and here to say thank you as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does any of the commissioners have any questions?
The siding, yeah, we had a question about what will be at ground level on the addition, if it
I heard that.
like the building, it will come down to the ground, or?
It will. We're going to have to play some geometric games, because by building code standards now, you can't bring wood down to the close proximity of grade. We're going to play some of the same games in terms of how we rehabilitate the interior too, to protect it in the future. It's a very diminutive dimension right now from grade to bottom of wood. It's kind of shocking when you walk up, because you literally can't see any of the or well, not any. You see a very minute strip of the existing foundation as it wraps most of the house. We do pick up some additional grade area at the rear where the addition is proposed. So we have a little bit more separation, but we're going to basically match our finished floor elevations, which means materiality will wrap consistently around our rim board at the base. Will carry all the way through, so that it aligns with the rim boards of the house itself. So there'll be a minor separation. The positive nature is that we are proposing cementitious materials on the new addition, so those can be in close proximity to grade without any challenge or issue.
Thanks.
Do we have any more questions from the commission? I'd like to open this to the public hearing item. Is any, no one in our audience. Is there any calls?
There are no callers.
No callers? Would someone like to read a possible motion? Motion. Motion.
Yeah, I can.
Catherine?
Yeah, I think, Joe, I understand where you want to not have the proposal. So after 2 air conditioning condensers behind the main house block, as
Right.
proposed, the work is compatible, so,
Exactly,
okay.
exactly.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 511 East Ann Street, a contributing property in the Old Fourth Ward Historic District, to do the following work. Construct a 2-story rear addition, replace a portion of the foundation, install a timber egress well and new egress window on the rear wing, replace the asphalt shingle roof and the metal front porch roof with matching materials, remove a chimney from the rear wing, demolish a non-contributing rear porch, install new wood shutters on the front elevation, install aluminum storm windows, fill in a window well on the east elevation, remove and replace portions of the non-historic fencing, install 3 new gravel parking spaces in the northeast corner of the rear yard, install a new walkway to the rear door, and add 2 air conditioning condensers behind the main house block as proposed. Let me jump here. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1, 2, 5, 6, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for additions and building site, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guideline for all additions.
Support. Does anyone have any discussion?
Sure. Actually, I have a question, and this goes back to one of the statements Ms. Thatcher noted during her reading of the staff report. To the applicant around the parking spaces and how much, is the backyard going to actually be a backyard, or is it, I'm looking at the site plan here. So the parking lots, the parking spaces will be approached, it looks like there's a driveway, there's not like an alley, or how will the parking spaces be accessed? This is to the architect.
Did you hear the question, sir?
Yes, I did. I was muted, so I could not respond at the moment. Ms. Thatcher, would you mind, can you possibly share the site plan? It's a little bit easier to address visually. So there's a common drive that's shared between both properties. The cobble or the paver on end, I don't know if, Jill, if you see your cursor, I can't access mine, or use mine to depict it, is intended to loop or follow this loop, this circular form, wrapping all the way around. It's intended to provide just enough turning radius to get 3 vehicles in and out. There's enough parking area behind it where they can make basically a T-bone move to get out. But that zone that's demarcated by the arcing form, then that heads straight back north to the fence line, is intended to be the concrete pavers on side. They're, I believe, 4 by 8 by 2, and those will basically demarcate the gravel zone where the parking is from the ground cover or the landscape area itself.
Gotcha, okay. So
And
there-
then to kind of cap the end of those, we'll wrap those around, but I should see one missing. We'll also have bumper blocks there as well, just to make sure that vehicles aren't encroaching too close to the fence line.
Okay, and then where the condenser units are going to be located, is that like kind of, is there going to be like a concrete strip on the side of the house, or are they just going to kind of sit on concrete pads?
No, they'll just sit on concrete pads, a very standard installation.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
So I guess just to start, I guess like, so that rear wing clearly is a significant character defining kind of feature of the property. And I guess I'm struggling a little bit with the loss of that side elevation as well as essentially like cutting that in half, losing the side elevation as well as that kind of half of the roof. Yeah, I guess that's kind of, I'm struggling a little bit with that. But I do appreciate the fact that the house looks to be in really bad condition, and, there's an attempt, not even an attempt, but there's a plan to bring this, rehab it, make it structurally sound, bring it back, back to life. And I do appreciate the fact that, as Commissioner Fortner noted, that the addition is, tucked back, really, tucked back, you can't see it from the right of way. You're getting that much size, but it's not like just some massive colossal thing. But yeah, well, and also the loss of the chimney, I guess I'm struggling a little bit with that for this really historic, character-defining wing of the house.
Any more questions? All in favor of this project, please say by yes.
Yes?
Yes. All opposed? This motion carries.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
So I was a no on that, is that, I guess I was clear, right? Okay.
I'm going to go find Anna.
Oh.
All right. Find the agenda here. I believe we are finished with the hearings. And, sorry, I gotta close some stuff. Okay. On to item G, new business. We have a couple of items, additions to staff approval list.
Yes. So we've been doing a lot of solar applications, not a lot, but, steadily. And it seems that we've gotten to the point with them where the commission doesn't have a lot to talk about, which is an indication to me that it might be time to talk about the staff approval list and whether certain kinds of solar installations would be something we could add to it. Right now, the current language says, I can staff approve installation of new solar panels on non-character defining roof surfaces not visible from the street. And what I'm proposing that you consider adding is, or the installation of black on black panels on side facing roof surfaces that are visible from the street.
Support that.
So, yeah, so just basically all of these gable front houses with, they're all putting the panels on the south side, and,
So,
any hesitations about that?
sorry, I just want to make sure, you said that it would also include black on black
Would have to-
on front facing, or no?
No.
Okay.
Side facing.
No, side facing.
Just side facing,
Only
okay.
side facing. Front facing is still a
Still an
commission
HTC, okay.
application.
Yeah, I would support that.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Actually, I have a quick question.
Mhm.
And I probably should have read the guidelines before we came. So do the guidelines specifically talk about, like if there was a slate roof or whatever, like significant actual roofing and potential impact on that?
I actually don't think it does,
Okay.
but if someone wanted to put solar on a slate roof, they would be here in a second.
Okay.
That would
So,
not be the
yeah,
staff
so of course you
approval.
would know what staff would bring, like if it was, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Any.
Significant historic.
Yeah, anything
roof
significant,
remaining.
yeah,
Okay.
or anything that just seems a little off to me,
Mhm.
goes to the HDC. If it seems like a close call or a questionable call, that's your call to make, not mine.
But this is like on an asphalt, non-historic roof.
Exactly,
Then-
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
You know, actually, it might not be bad to add something like installation of new, not visible from the street, or installation visible from the street. Oh, okay, so it does say non-character defining roof surfaces.
Okay.
So I would think something that's slate, or
Mhm.
maybe metal, or other historic materials, or on top of a cool dormer, or something like
Mhm.
that, that are
Chimney,
character
right, yeah.
defining.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That would still,
yeah,
come-
that would
yeah.
still come to the commission. I think it's,
Awesome.
yeah, this is just side roofs of gable front houses, for the most part.
Let's do it.
I think, yeah, good point, Commissioner Ross. Yeah. Does somebody need to make a motion, or?
We have a motion.
Okay.
on the-
Yeah, would someone like to make this motion? Or
I
another
make a
one?
motion that we have the new solar panel rules be voting on that. I don't have it in front of me, but this solar panel rules. I don't think I have it in my packet.
So it says that item 33 on the staff approvals list be amended to read as follows. 33, installation of new solar panels on non-character defining roof surfaces not visible from the street, or installation of black-on-black panels on side-facing roof surfaces that are visible from the street.
I can make the motion.
What was that?
I can make the motion.
Okay.
Okay. I move that item 33 on the staff approval list be amended to read as follows. 33, installation of new solar panels on non-character defining roof surfaces not visible from the street, or installation of black-on-black panels on side-facing roof surfaces that are visible from the street.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Ross and seconded by Commissioner White. We have any further discussion? Any opposition? Okay. So we vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. All right. It is passed. On to item G2, Braun Court history.
So, sorry, I just put this together today, so it's probably not in your paper packet, though I picked them up off the printer. Here we go. I can do that. Just pass that. Yep. Thank you. Okay, so at our last meeting, someone mentioned Braun Court and wanting to know more about its history. This is a little bit more information on Braun Court, which is, let me see if I can pull up a picture here. It's 7 houses in Carytown. And there is a proposal now to remove those houses and build a new residential building there. This just came in last week as a pre-application meeting through the planning department. So it's by no means submitted or a done deal or anything, but it is now a proposal that's being kicked around. Sorry, this is taking me a minute.
Is it just one person or company that owns all the building?
That is a good question. So there are 7 houses on the court, and 6 of them are controlled at this point by Wickfield Development, Wickfield Real Estate. The 7th is the bar at Braun Court, which is the one on the front, on the north, and it is still independently owned. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Apologies for that delay. Okay, here's Braun Court. Many of you probably know it. It had restaurants, it had a bookseller, it had the Jim Toy Center, a real estate office, just a variety of different businesses pretty recently. At this point, all but one of the structures are vacant. The bar at Braun Court here, this tan one that you see, still has the bar in it. The houses were built between 1914 and 1918 as single-family homes. And they're all stucco clad. They used to have matching porches on the front. You can see that in one of the photographs at the end of the little memo there. The street was closed to vehicles by 1974, and in the early 80s, the houses were slated for demolition when a Save Braun Court campaign was undertaken by citizens. The buildings were remodeled shortly after with second-floor connections and ramps between some buildings. You can't really see those here because they're set back. Maybe we can see it on the back of the structures here. Not really, but there are decks that run along the back here. Some of them have upper story decks in between so that you can go from one house into another. The paver courtyard was installed in 1984. From the mid-1990s to 2020, Braun Court was the center of the LGBTQ community in Ann Arbor, home to the Jim Toy Community Center, Outbar, the Common Language Bookstore, and in 2015, the local plaintiffs in the Supreme Court decision that states are required to recognize marriages between same-sex couples was celebrated in Braun Court, and it did attract national media attention. So that's it in a nutshell. It is historically important. I think not just because of the tenants that it's had, going from residential to these commercial uses to this very important LGBTQ center to, you also need to look at the massing, the size and scale. Carytown is a 2- and 3-story area. This is a new building that is 3 stories beyond it, but everything is pretty low. There are some changes right now going on in Carytown. On the other side of the farmer's market here is a new 3- or 4-story residential building where DeLong's Barbecue Pit used to be. That building is now gone. And another change is that there's a proposed housing commission building going up here on the corner where this parking lot is at Catherine and 4th. And that would come right up to the rear lot line here behind these houses and undoubtedly be taller than them. I don't know how tall that building is proposed to be, but I would imagine that it's probably 5 or 6 stories. So I think that there's probably a basis for the preservation of these homes. There is no study committee appointed to study them at this point. And I don't know what your interest is in these houses, but I was asked to bring it up, and I do think that it's an important area.
No historic district here at all, right? There's no
historic
protection in
district. No,
place
no
currently
protection.
for these.
No.
The historic district abuts directly to these houses, right? The old
No.
Ford.
Yeah.
No, it's, the historic district is down here on the next block down, on 4th, like where the Birkenstock shop is.
Okay.
And the co-op is across the street over here.
Mhm.
And then it picks up again on the other side of the Carytown shops and the farmer's market on Detroit Street, where Community High and Zingerman's are.
Okay, so the block that
This-
Carytown and 303 Detroit are
Right.
not in.
This whole area is not protected by a historic district, yeah, north of, with the exception of, the one exception is the former Archie Groves restaurant, the gas
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
station
Filling
on the
station.
corner,
Yeah.
yeah, the filling station, yeah,
I thought it extended over to
yeah.
this street.
So that's it from me. I'm kind of looking for other pictures of it, but, you know, the houses, they're relatively young. They're from
Yeah.
19 teens.
Mhm.
And they have an interesting history, for sure.
It definitely is a unique setup, and in Ann Arbor, and it has always been a pretty vibrant place and pretty distinct area connected to Carytown and
Yeah, yeah.
adjacent to a couple of historic districts.
When the buildings were occupied, that was an awesome space.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great.
Is it appropriate for us to recommend that a study be done? Or that a study group be impaneled, or whatever you do to put a study group together?
Yeah, that's definitely within your purview if you think that it's something worthwhile. That has to come from city council, the
Okay.
creation of a study committee, but it's definitely appropriate if you guys want to, suggest to city council that they do that. That would probably come through a resolution, maybe at the next meeting or something.
Is that something that,
I would
I
do
don't-
that.
I would
I'm-
support
I'm
that for
interested
sure.
in that. Just because one person, or not one person, but the property owner on the south side of the street, I'd like to know where they stand. I'm not sure if they're gonna try to condemn the property that's there or not. I would like to study.
mhm.
Okay, would anyone like to volunteer to assist with that before our next meeting? To sort of read over, give feedback on?
I'll assist you, Jill, be
Okay.
more than happy to assist.
Okay, I will write something up and ship it off to you, Bob.
Okay.
And,
I can assist as well.
okay, okay.
And I'll be
Uh,
second backup if you need.
Okay.
Good, I'm glad, I'm glad there's so much interest, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
And at this point, I should probably mention that on South Forest, there is a large 5 or 6 story Spanish Revival brick apartment building called Forest Court, with a big driveway and huge oak trees in the front that's also now being considered for demolition to be redeveloped, and it's also not in a historic district. That one was in the individual historic properties district, but that was abolished in 2001. So I just learned of this one a couple days ago. There's probably good history on it if you're similarly interested in learning about that one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of development projects coming into Ann Arbor right now. It's been a very quiet 5 years, and right now we're exploding with new projects.
The individual project, or individual historic district, how was that? Was that removed by city council? Was it,
No, that was a court case.
Okay.
A property owner sued the city, and it went to court, and the state determined that you weren't allowed to have disparate properties in one historic district. So we had this individual historic properties on individual lots that were not contiguous.
Mhm.
And so the state said, you can't do that.
Okay.
Even though they're your finest and best properties, they would have to each be in an individual district or something. Or you could potentially clump them into themes, like you could have a churches district,
Got
if
it.
they had a theme, something in common, or a
So they could-
transportation district.
They could
But-
be a non-contiguous lots and still, like, multiple churches would be.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Actually, I have a question though. So, just for clarity's sake, so Jill, you're saying that the court said that you couldn't have like one district with discontiguous properties,
Right.
but couldn't you just have just like a single property district that's not part of a wider district?
Yes, you
Yeah.
could.
Okay,
And
Which we do
for-
have.
For many years after that district went away, staff and the HCC and others tried to put them into new districts, and there was no appetite on city council
gotcha.
to make any of those actual districts, even though there were study committees and work done. They never voted any of them to actually become historic districts again.
Right, right.
Yeah, so there are individual buildings out there that,
The Hayden House,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I should look and see if the individual historic properties survey is on the website or not. So you could take a glimpse at our finest and best historic properties that are no longer protected in any way.
Yeah.
But I mean, based on, I mean, is it possible for us, so you're talking about this apartment complex. So you provided us with this really nice history on Brown Court. So I guess like the next step for this apartment complex is you wanted to give us a little bit of a historic background on that, and then we could potentially,
Yeah, let me give
Okay.
you more information.
Okay.
At next month's meeting.
okay, great.
And, yeah, if you think it's appropriate, you could do something similar with a resolution of support to send to city council for that one as well.
Yeah.
Is it still being used? I mean, are people still living there?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it
so is
received
a-
an HTC award about probably 10 or 12 years ago for preservation.
Mhm.
The same family's owned it for a long time.
Wow.
But,
Yeah. It's a nice old building.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'll give you more information on South Forest at the
Okay.
next meeting.
Great,
Great.
thank you. On to item H, approval of minutes. We received the December 8th, 2022 Historic District Commission minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review? Any opposition? So the amendments are approved as presented. The minutes are approved as presented. On to item I, reports from commissioners. Is there any report from anyone on? Nope. Assignments. Review committee would be Monday, February 6, 2023 at noon for the Thursday, February 9th regular meeting. Is there- Let's just look, checking my calendar, if there's any volunteers.
I can do it. Beverly, thank you.
February 6th.
I have input.
That's fine, I can do that.
12.
Okay, Beverly and Anna, thank you.
All right. On to item K, reports from staff. You don't have any additional reports about?
Just one thing to mention, Jessica Quijano, Commissioner, is expecting a baby in February, mid-February. And she had a conflict tonight, so she couldn't make this meeting. And she's also planning to miss the February, March, and April
Okay.
meetings. So
Baby thing?
we didn't get to send her off in person, but
6 months pregnant?
I know, she didn't look it at all. She
Yeah.
didn't look it at all.
I know, right?
It was sort of shocking. Yeah, yeah. Yep. So she won't be volunteering for a review committee
Or be
or
available
being at the
anytime
meetings, so, yeah.
until June, May?
February, March, April, maybe
May.
May.
We'll
Yeah,
see. Okay.
May-ish. Yeah, that's all from me.
Congratulations to her. On to item L, concerns of commissioners. Is there any concerns that a commissioner would like to share with the rest of the commission? Communications, I don't believe we received any communications.
No.
And on to item N, adjournment. I now adjourn the January 12th, 2023 meeting of Ann Arbor Historic District Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.